What is up, everybody? We're back with emergency breaking news. The shit has hit the fan once again. Look, this isn't turning into a political channel, but I am one that does like politics, right? That is known. And as I've been covering, there's a lot of stuff happening within the DOD that I want to cover. Just as a military person, trying to really kind of keep the politics out of it as much as I can. And today I have a guest. Today's guest, I don't know if you want to use your full name there.
No, it's fine, man. I'm gonna try to stay out of trouble. I'm gonna try to keep myself out of trouble. I am still active duty. A CWO4, an IP officer, an IT officer. Kelvin Jackson. I won't say where I'm stationed, so my CO doesn't get calls. But yeah, so still in active duty CWO4.
Wait, Kelvin, tilt your camera up just a little bit so we get a little bit more of your forehead. There we go. All right.
Oh my.
So
okay. All right.
Yeah. You good right there, brother. So, me and Kelvin, we go way back to our 2008, 10 days back on the road. So he's been on the show before, talking about this subject before. Okay, if y'all remember, it was like a good 2 years ago. We had a big table full of a lot of people, a lot of diversity at that table at that time. Right? And we're talking about diversity things in the military, what we've experienced, what we've seen, how we go about it, because at that time it was a hot button topic, and it will continue to be. And so the breaking news that we're going to cover and we're going to talk about today, and again, we're both active duty. We both know the rules. We're not going to get too political, but we're going to state some things about how the changes make us feel as active duty service members, right? Because I think it's a good discussion, okay? We know each other well enough, and I got some other people that might jump in here with the interview. I don't think nothing is going to be said that's going to change how we feel about each other, right? And I hope you're all out there having these conversations in your space or something can keep it like that too, okay? The overall mission and the safety of each other out there at sea and everywhere else is way more important than any of the bullshit going on in DC, where all those fuckers don't know you, for some part really don't even care because they're so far removed. Okay, they care that the mission's getting done, but they don't know Seaman Timmy or Seaman Sally out on the deck plate that's making it happen. Okay, so all that being said, the breaking news last night, it was getting the scuttlebutt, as we like to say in the Navy, was out that the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Air Force General Brown, okay, I believe that's his name, right? I don't got nothing pulled up. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, right? And Admiral Franchetti, a lot of people say Franchetti, it's not, okay? I lived in Sicily. CH makes a k sound, okay? So Admiral Franchetti, I'm particular about that. I want to put respect on her name, okay? Was also fired. Now, Kelvin, I know you feel a lot of ways. I'm going to come out the gate and say this. General Brown, don't know enough about him. Again, like, bottom line is he's going to be okay to me, right? Was it probably politically motivated? Probably somewhere in there, and we're going to get into why those things might have come up. But, you know, I always look at it like this. Like, they serve at the will and pleasure of the commander-in-chief. So he gets the right or wrong, whatever you feel about it, to dismiss them when he thinks that they're not serving. So Brown, I really have no opinion on, like no real angst either way about it. Franchetti, I think we missed the mark on that, and we'll get more into that. Kevin, why don't you just go ahead and like, are you? I think you're both. You're both against both of those firings.
Yeah, so let me say, I always believed that service in the military was above politics. I've always believed that the merit of your work should be what promotes you and gets you into some of these positions. Let's be very clear. Both of these leaders, officers have ridiculously exceptional records. And they are both, this is just facts, and I'm just going to speak facts. We had prior to inauguration, we had 7 members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, when you include the chairman, which was General Brown, when you include the vice chairman, and when you include the Coast Guard. Coast Guard is not always included, but when you include the Coast Guard, we had 7 members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. 3 of them were minorities. 3 of them have been fired. All three of the Joint Chiefs of Staff members that have been fired were the minorities.
So let me jump
would
in.
well,
Go ahead.
well, let me say this. I am going to reserve judgment because I have been told, I've seen SECDEF's message the other day that there's going to be transparency, and he is going to come out and explain these firings. I absolutely look forward to that because right now, being honest, the optics look bad.
Right.
The optics look bad when you have 7 Joint Chiefs of Staff members, 3 of them minorities, 3 of them fired. All 3 of the members that were fired are the minorities. The optics look bad. So that's the tough part. That's the tough part. Again, just like you, I do not know General Brown. I have met our previous CNO. I will not even try to butcher her last name out of respect to her. But I met her. I'm not going to say I have some extensive background with her, but everything I've heard, everything I've seen, she seemed to be an exceptional leader who cared about sailors, who cared about the mission, who cared about making our job a little bit easier. And this is, again, as we mentioned, scuttlebutt from people who have worked with her. This is the 10-minute conversation I had with her at the command that I'm serving at now. She seemed to be very engaging, very concerned, and a remarkable career. And again, giving her flowers, the first female CNO, the first female member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a historical member to be kind of unceremoniously fired is concerning. And I'll leave it at is concerning.
So, couple things, right? First is the Coast Guard one. A lot of people bring up the Coast Guard. I don't know what they call Commandant. Is she Commandant? I think.
Yeah, she's Commandant of the Coast Guard.
Right. So a lot of people don't know the whole scandal that revolved around that, or the operation, or it was Operation, I think they called it, or the fouled anchor.
Yeah.
Right. So I would implore people to go look into that. From my understanding, what I read, and if you've read it, please let me know what I'm missing here. She withheld information that involved sexual misconducts throughout the Coast Guard. Right. So people bring her up and kind of try to throw it in at this is not blaming, but like as you did. But like I think there's more substance there with that, right? Than what we may have with Joint Chief General Brown and Admiral Franchetti. What do you think about that?
Let me say this. I am sure they all have their own stories. Obviously, that one happened literally, I think, soon as Trump was inaugurated. So that one, yes, I believe there was more to that. I'm only combining that firing with this one to include the fact that we had 7 chairmen and 3 of them were minorities. They may all on their own have their own stories and their own justification. In fact, I assume they do. Like I said, I'm only speaking of the optics of the fact that prior to the inauguration, we had 3 members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff that were minorities. And today, right now, and again, let me also say, I know there's a nominee for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. We can talk about later. But we don't know who's gonna take those other service chief positions. But right now we went from 3 minorities to no minority chairman members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
So my question though again is I hope again before that all happened earlier in the afternoon, SECDEF came out and said there will be transparency, and I think that is great. I don't think anyone should be saying anything negative about that, right? His 2-minute little, reel or whatever he put out.
Video, yeah.
I don't think there's any way we can spin that to be negative. And if you are, I'd wager that it's strictly political for you and you're not looking at it through a military lens at all, right? You voted the other way, you're not a fan, whatever it is, right? But do we not as a military, as the Department of Defense owe that transparency?
Yeah, let me say this. This is where I can say, obviously, like most people, you have an initial reaction. I have an initial reaction. I
Yeah,
have an initial thought. I have initial beliefs. I have initial concerns. However, what I will do is give the grace, give the opportunity for the SECDEF to come out and explain these. The optics look one way, and I'm assuming he knows that, which is why he preempted that with the video. He
yeah,
knew the optics were going to look a certain way.
yeah,
I will allow the opportunity for him to speak about why, and again, obviously this will be about the chairman and the CNO, but why those firings happened. Again, especially when we talk about two officers that were, and I am not in the Air Force, so this is where talking about General Brown becomes a little bit
hmm,
harder. But
yeah,
everything I've seen from airmen, from people who are seem to be a very well liked member of the Air Force. Again, I say the same thing about our CNO. I have not heard a single person say a bad thing about her that has
right,
actually had the opportunity to work with her or talk with her.
yeah.
So, I, but I'm
It
also
did,
not. I'm also not in Washington. I'm not privy to all the things that maybe the SecDef or the president are. That I'll be honest on that.
so
I
for
look forward to hearing the
yeah,
transparency, right? So
yes.
I appreciate the preemptive message. I look forward to seeing the actual transparency where we explain why these two firings happened.
Are you holding your phone?
I am.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
is it
okay,
weird?
yeah.
Hold on,
No.
let me try to put. Is that better?
Yeah, yeah, that's better. That's better because
Okay.
we animated in here and his shit's not showing.
You're right. You're
But
right. My
all good,
bad.
all good, all good. So I think it is safe to say that many feel, or they're in DC, the people that are making these choices, a lot of it's being linked to DEI. You've watched my other videos on that stuff, okay? We've had some of
Yep.
those conversations. Again, when the other episode you were on, I said it 2 years ago. I don't think we should have any special months for anyone across the board, and that's what has happened. So maybe I willed that into existence. I don't know. Maybe the almighty Bravo Zulu or something, right? But that
The
aside,
SecDef
check it
was
out now. Huh?
SecDef was watching your videos.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess I guess so, right? You need to subscribe and like. You do it too while you're watching right now. Um, but you know, I how to say? I want to articulate as smartly as I can. As I've said in the previous videos, if there was no DEI, then there would be nothing to get rid of. But as you've seen and everything, there's instructions canceled. There's something in everything. There's some little bit or whatever it was of DEI in the military, whether it's just words that needed to be removed, but the instruction still stands, and the premise of it, right, and the content is still there, but they had to get rid of the word, perhaps, inclusion, right? So they had to cancel the instructions, strike out all inclusions, and it's 99% still the same, okay? That's something that, across the board, you saw a lot of people, they did away with Simeo. Simeo never was done away with. Your local instruction
Yeah.
was updated to get rid of words that fell under a DEI umbrella, quote unquote, whatever you want to believe or not, right? And that's what's been updated. But Simeo is still alive and well, right? So
Well,
that
let me say this
go ahead.
regarding if these were, and I'm gonna try to carefully use these words here. If these firings were attached to these two leaders pushing or promoting DEI, where my concern is, and in defense of them,
Yeah.
you have to understand that they came into office under a different regime. So if I
Yes.
came in under a regime where DEI was, again, we are all subjects to, we all take the oath saying, I will obey the orders of the president and the officers appointed over me.
Yes.
If I
Absolutely.
am the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the president at the time, and again, last regime,
Mm-hmm.
was pushing DEI, or DEI was something that was being required to push to the military. I think it'd be a little unfair to then hold that against him because I came in under a different regime and I was serving at the honor of the president.
Yes.
I was taking the orders at that time. I was fulfilling orders. I would only really accept it. I'm not going to say I would only really accept it again. I am going to leave room for grace
Yeah.
for the SECDEF, but I think it would only really make sense if it was something that happened since inauguration. Hey,
Right.
inauguration happened, and you did not take
All
heed
the
to
yes.
to these orders.
Yes.
If it's something from last presidential regime, that's a little tough, like I said,
Yeah.
because hey, I work for the president.
I completely agree with you there, right? Although I think we have different stances on some of the things, I think that is
Yes.
absolutely fair. Okay. That being said, I don't think we can call General Brown a DEI hire because he was
No,
appointed to the Joint Chiefs by President Trump in his first term, right?
well,
So,
pause.
right? Okay.
I don't think it matters who appointed him. I
Yeah.
don't think we can call him a DEI hire because this man has a remarkable career, 40 years of
Right.
service. So who?
I say that because that is what a lot of news headlines and a lot of the, if you want to use misinformation, disinformation from legacy media, whatever words you want to use, right? That's a lot of what's getting pushed, and that's a lot of what you see out on the web sphere of junior sailors, or whoever shit posting and this and that, right? And I agree with you. Okay, I want like they were. I do. I don't want I think when we're relying on the conversation to be that, oh, just because of female and color or sex and color and stuff, if that's our only argument, then we're doing a disservice to their service, right? They have
Right.
40 years of great service. That is what we should be honed in and focused on, of like, again, back to the transparency thing. What was it military performance wise that they were not
Yes.
accomplishing? And again, if it was during the last regime, like you don't give them some time to get on board. But if there was meetings had that we will never know about, where they came out and
Right.
said, yeah, that's not going to happen from January 20th until now, then there that is, right? And we'll never know, right? Unless one of them writes a book or comes out all of a sudden in a month to try to be
Right.
like, nope, we had a meeting with them and I told them, fuck you. And they are, nope, fuck you. You're going to be fine. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to know that stuff, right,
Right.
Kelvin? So
Right.
again, I bring it up only because I don't think that should be the focus. That is the focus of what a lot of media is trying to push. And again, I've said this before. I hate that shit because that is, when we're paying attention to media, that is what is driving the divide between people. That's what's driving the divide between service members now, is too many clickbaity articles that no one reads that really has little to no context in it.
Substance. Yeah.
Right? The substance. Thank you. You're much smarter than me. And we can't just put one and one together, and it's raw emotion, and everyone hates the other person, right? So, I don't think he was a DEI hire. I don't think you'd call him one. I don't think it's driven. So I'll say this: do we think that part of General Brown's firing would, after he was the Joint Chief, or not Joint Chief, but the head of the Air Force,
Chairman. Oh, got you.
Chairman, thank you, of the Air Force, and he started making appearances and talking about race things during the George Floyd riot / protests, protests during the day, riot at night. Do we think that maybe lended to some of the animosity and rollover to where we're at now? Is him kind of coming
Yeah.
out and saying these things?
Yeah, absolutely. One, this was mentioned in SECDEF's book that he wrote prior to taking the
Right.
position. And let me clarify this. The president, the secretary of defense, absolutely have the right to, all of those positions in the Joint Chiefs of Staff are appointed by those two people. They have the right to say, hey, I want to clear. So nothing they are doing is illegal. Nothing that they are doing it is just an opinion piece. It is just, hey, how do we feel? How do we believe? So do they have the right to say, and like I said, where I think my concern is more is the optics. So yes, one, Hexef called General Brown and he didn't call him a DEI hire. He called him somebody who pushes DEI philosophies. Somebody who was very connected to, as you mentioned, the George Floyd thing. Was very connected to DEI initiatives, let me say. And I think that is what ultimately this firing is going to be attributed to. I don't know as much in terms of the CNO, her actually pushing DEI initiatives. So I'm a little anxious to hear the justification for that firing. But that's, like I said, the optics still are very concerning.
Yes, and again, I think we get wrapped around optics, and I think that's where we want the transparency, right? As
Right.
any sailor at any command of anything, right? When your CO my CO was relieved just last fall, right? And people wanted transparency. We didn't get none, right? You get the scuttlebutt, you get people who were talking about, well, this is what they talked to me about, like things like that. But outside of that, you don't ever really get a hard stamp. No, this is exactly what happened, right?
Right.
So part of it is like we'll never know, but I hope we do. I hope that something. But here's the other thing, like, what for you, right? Because again, me, I'm just kind of a shrug my shoulders, like, okay, they're fired, like next thing, right?
Right.
And although I want the transparency for you, is there anything that SECDEF could say or mention about their performance or otherwise that would make you say, I get it, I understand that why they're let go?
If it was we had new initiatives,
Yeah.
we had a conversation, and these are the people that did not get on board, then
Okay.
yes, then yes.
Okay.
Right? I don't necessarily have to agree with initiatives. A new regime gets, just like a new CO gets to
Yep.
create new policies.
Yep.
But if they did not get on board, then I can respect it. Hey, these are not the people, because again, as you become the president, as you become the head of a service like the Department of Defense, I would say anybody, if I was going to be the Secretary of Defense, I would want Joint Chiefs that support me. And I'm not saying blindly, right? I'm saying, hey, yeah,
Of
push
course.
back here or give advice here or disagree here. But at least holistically support me. So if
Right.
they could not, if there was policies and way forwards presented and they were not on board, they truly were like, let's just say the fact that we are cutting DI. And again, this, I'm not going to get into agree or disagree. It is what it is. This is the way we're moving forward as a military. If they legitimately say, I'm not on board with that, I'm not doing it, then I can respect it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that's what a lot of people are losing sight of. Um, as you've served a long time, I'm now up there too. Uh, a lot of things you don't have to like,
Right.
right? Like a lot of things we don't like, but you have to
Yeah,
respect it.
facts.
And as you said, right? You get a new CO in, and they're trying to go one way. It's not blind loyalty, as we teach, right? In the mess and through the season stuff, it's not blind loyalty, but you gotta be loyal in there somewhere, because if you're not, now
Yes.
you're undermining. Now you're taking away. Now you are being the disruptor of a cohesive unit, right? So
Right.
again, and I wonder if that's going to come out in this transparency, that so that maybe that's what it was. I think we've kind of covered General Brown enough, or
Yeah.
not. If not, then let us know down in the comments what we missed. Okay, but and I think overall we've both decided that there could be something there that we'll never be privy to unless SecDef keeps the transparency policy alive and well and gives us a real good debrief of what happened. Now, I think there's, when it comes, because everyone, so media is linking all of this to the DEI executive orders that President Trump, our commander in chief, put out. Okay, so that's like the main focus, because he